Planning Commission meeting for Fairway, Kansas. First item of business is approval of minutes from the meeting held on September 26, 2022. Is there any discussion? Or would someone be interested in making a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Mics aren't working.
Chair, is everyone's mic on? Is everyone's
Should
mic
have a red
It's red.
light.
It's
but I don't
red,
know that
and I'm
it's
not
It's not
getting.
working.
No, they're not working.
All right, I think we've got it. Hold on. I'm going to make an adjustment on this mic level.
Maybe we're changing over technologies too quickly here.
Test? I don't think so. Everyone just do it until it works. Is it a matter of it just not being on in here?
Well, it could be multiple places. I've got it on it's on the computer, so that's not the issue. We've got the mics on, and they seem to be, the volume seems to be okay over here. I may have to have everyone.
Does your output need to be the Fairway City Hall stereo?
Oh, here we go. So many different places you can adjust microphones.
Oh, I hear it.
I haven't been paying any attention to how many likes we get in our meetings.
I haven't either.
Who knew?
I think we're good now. Sorry about that.
Do we need to redo what we did?
We just passed the minutes, and I think we're okay for that.
Commissioner Denton made the motion, and who seconded it?
Commissioner Faltzscript?
Okay, so we got that? Okay.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Second item of business is item 2, old business. There is none. Moving on, item 3, new business. Item A, site plan for new single-family residence, 5926 Windsor Drive, Fairway, Kansas, as submitted by Kirk Wolf of Wolf Buildings on behalf of Thomas and Mary Champion property owners. Basil, will you please provide your report?
Yes, the applicant submitted a request report for a request for a new single-family residence, approximately 3,139 square feet. Plans show the height of the structure to be 2910 inches, and the existing grade is 913.4, and they're gonna keep that same grade. The proposed hardscape is reduced. The runoff will be reduced. Staff will support the application.
Thank you. Is there any questions for staff?
Is this going to be stucco over foam? Is that what? I see that written somewhere here, but I
He's
don't.
calling for stucco typical.
What about the trim around the windows? Stucco over foam trim?
That would be a question for the applicant.
Is EFS, is that an allowed exterior in Fairway? Of course, we don't know if that's what it is or not, but. Okay.
What-
I'm sorry, could you come up to the mic and?
Will you please state your name and address for the record?
Hi, Kurt Wolf is my name. I'm at 8016
Champion. Want me to do it again?
Yeah. Did you,
Hi,
ahead.
my name is Kirk Wolf. I'm with Wolf Building. I'm representing Thomas and Mary Champion. My address is 8016 Manor Road, Leawood, Kansas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, if you could please explain the stucco over the foam trim.
Right, actually, I would have to, I need to look at the plans again. Well, I guess I have them here. So this architect frequently will use an accent sill under the window that is foam covered with stucco. That is not an EFS product, but okay. So that's what it is. Yeah. So it's a hard foam product that is manufactured locally, and then that is then applied to the exterior wallboard and then covered with foam.
Say that again, covered with foam?
Excuse me, sorry, thank you. Covered with stucco. Yeah.
That's just the trim? It's not
That is only the trim. Actually, it's only the sill under the window. So the trim above the window is actually a 2x6 painted, but the sill under the window is just the foam product that is covered with stucco. It's really just an aesthetic thing.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for the applicant while they're up here?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Was there any other questions for Basil? If none, is there any discussion amongst the commission?
Looks pretty good to me. I mean, it's...
I have, just to clarify with Ron, EFS is an approved material. I don't think it's not allowed.
You say it's not approved?
No, it is part of an approved material. I mean, it's just like a stucco. I mean, it's just the application of it. Foam behind it, and then you apply the mortar. So I don't think it's not it is an allowed material. Allowed in the code.
Okay, I just didn't know whether it was or not. I didn't look that up, but it's quite a bit different in its performance, though. I mean, stucco is usually a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick, and the EFS is somewhere around 1/8 of an inch, and it's
Yeah, but
requires
you're putting
considerable.
that foam material about 1.5 inches, so.
Well, yeah, it's probably better environmentally and insulation-wise, but it's got to be done really right, or it's a big issue.
Commissioner Denton, we did allow EFS on the Starbucks building at 4200 Shine Mission Parkway, and I think we, back then on the material, did a looked it up and felt like it met the stucco,
Okay.
in terms of, I think aesthetics and stuff. I can't speak to the actual performance, that I wouldn't know.
Well, it doesn't matter. We
Okay.
don't have it here, so it doesn't.
Would someone be interested in making a motion? If there's no discussion?
I'd make a motion that we approve the plans as submitted and the staff report for the house at 5926 Windsor Drive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item passes. Thank you. Next item of business is item B, site plan for new single-family residence, 5914 El Monte Street, Fairway, Kansas, as submitted by Kevin Schneider of James Engel Custom Homes on behalf of James Engel Custom Homes property owner. Basil, will you please provide your report?
Yes, again, the applicant submitted a request for a new single-family residence with a footprint of approximately 2,134 square feet. The plans show height of the structure to be 29 feet, 9.5 inch. The proposed elevation is measured at 936, and they are keeping the same elevation. The hardscape will reduce the rear drainage runoff from 1.01 to 0.73 CFS, and will increase the street drainage from 0 to 0.35. The applicant requests approval. Staff recommends approval. And storm detention is not required.
I'm sorry, what's not required?
Storm detention is not required per the watershed analysis.
Can you remind me again? I always forget the number. What's the requirement for the front door behind the face of the garage? What's that limit?
Front door threshold, the garage door cannot project or the wall more than 8 foot in front of the front door threshold.
Okay, so they're at 8 foot right now. Okay. Are there any other questions for staff?
I don't have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Or discussion? Will you please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record?
Eileen Jones, 5909 Fontana Street. And is that the house?
Yes.
Yes.
So there is a concern about it slopes quite a bit in the back. And so when you talked about, I don't know, detention, drainage, or whatever, what does that mean?
Well, their proposal is they're going to reduce the water drainage from the back to the front. So they're directing the water to the front, to the street.
Okay. I don't know how that can be done because it is quite a slope, but that would be a concern because Fontana's a low street, and so water really accumulates there. So, and what's the footprint of the house? How many?
2134.
And also I had a question because it looked like it was for sale after James Engel bought it. Is it still?
We don't know anything about that.
Okay. All right. Just wondering. Nothing's happened on it, so. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a plan that shows the downspouts and how that drainage is routed?
It's on the screen.
Sure, so,
And it does look like the water's all going to the back, but, or a lot of it.
where is it showing that the downspouts?
Well, usually we'll ask on that when the permit application come because we have to verify the location of that.
Which is what I expected. Just
Yeah.
That's why we don't know that. We don't have that piece of information right now to show how the downspouts are.
Yeah, some
Got it.
surveyors will put that. I mean, it is part of the requirement, but sometimes they do not add that.
Chair Bailey, I just pulled up the proposed site plan from the engineer on the watershed, and it does show, at least going under the driveway, buried roof drain lines.
From the front? But from the back?
They're taking the ridge of the house and pushing the water to the front, and with those two gutters.
Both
and
sides of the driveway.
yeah, the back of the house, it just looks like back to the house, and it daylights on the previous plan. So the back gutters will daylight to the back side.
Right, so that drainage will go to the back then.
It will.
Is that consistent with the report?
Yeah, it seems like their argument is that since the front of it's probably bigger than it was previously, more of it's getting captured to go to the street.
Can you back up one page too? There's an overlay of the existing house and the new. It kind of shows, I think there was one more.
The site plan.
Yeah, I think they showed it. That kind of, the dotted line there that outlines the existing house.
Yeah, you can see the existing house would probably fit in the front half of this new house, and it looks like
The report indicates that they're going to reduce the drainage, and they've
In the
done the
back.
calculations and
Yeah.
sealed it. Any other discussion?
well, I would make a motion that we approve the plans as submitted based on the information in their drainage reports and the staff recommendations for the house at 5914 El Monte.
I'd second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
right. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item of business is item C, site plan for new single-family residence, 6123 Howe Drive, Fairway, Kansas, as submitted by Mary Line of Rozier Homes on behalf of Rozier Homes property owner. Basil, will you please provide a staff report?
Yes, the applicant submitted the plans for this new single-family resident. The existing grade elevation is 938, and the proposed is 938. The height of the new structure is 28.7. There's one issue. There are actually two issues when we had discussion with the applicant. He's encroaching into the plotted building line. So the side plotted building line was, he revised the plans, but the front, they are still encroaching 2.8 feet into the plotted building line. As far as the watershed analysis showed the proposed hardscape to increase from 4671.3 to 4837.8, and the runoff will increase from 1.46 to 1.63 CFS, and the runoff will decrease to the south neighbor from 0.53 to 0.37 CFS. Storm detention is not required. From talking to council, PC cannot grant approval for that encroachment.
Say that again.
So-
I didn't catch the last sentence you said.
Since it's a plotted building line, PC cannot grant approval for that encroachment.
So
But
what is
the
coming
applicant still
before
wanted
us?
to present the application to PC.
So what are we being asked to review?
I think what the applicant is looking for is feedback from the planning commission. Would, if this is brought to be replatted, it would involve a public hearing. Does planning commission have concerns? You know, or based on the home, the location and everything, would you consider on a replat being favorable? And of course, we can't do anything till we have the public hearing. I mean, it has to be discussed, so it's not.
Well, and just to clarify too, the code does say that for front setback exceptions in R1, the planning commission may grant an exception to the front setback to make the building line consistent. So it depends on the adjacent neighborhood, the adjacent properties. I would also note that if there were a replat, that would also require conformance with the applicable zoning regulations, which do require a 40-foot setback, unless there's a 35-foot setback that's already there, and with neighboring properties. So the similar rules would apply.
Do we have any information about what the neighboring houses are like? I mean, are they at the 35 or are they 34? Or, I mean,
They are at 35. it's a unique scenario. The house to the south, the street makes a curve, so it's really, you cannot base it on the house to the south. So you only have the houses to the north, which you have the street intersection between this house and the other houses.
Isn't there something in the code about allowing you to have a front porch that extends into the setback?
That is correct, but that's if you're not encroaching into the plotted building line. This is a plotted building line.
And any other questions for staff before the applicant comes up? Okay. Would you please come up and state your name and address for the record?
Thank you. I'm Austin Rozier with Rozier Homes, 11415 String Line, Lenexa, Kansas. Thank you. We don't have any intention of replatting. I think my only concern, and Basil and I have talked about this, is on the front porch approach. 150 square feet, 200 square feet is the allowable encroachment onto that front plat. I think we're at 114, so we're within the allowable. I think my conversation that we can have this outside of here is, I don't know where it's platted that we can't. I think that there's so many kind of conflicting what we can do and what we can't do, and I don't understand the way the lot is platted, why that would somehow remove our ability to follow the Fairway guidelines, which it does follow the Fairway guidelines. So I guess I'm a little concerned or confused at why this particular lot, even though it's platted like others, why it is somehow not allowed to follow those guidelines. We will certainly do what we need to do to adjust if necessary, but the current home that's on the property is complete disrepair. It's falling in, so we're trying to get it torn down quick, and to avoid going through all the hurdles again, we would really like to understand why this particular lot is not allowed to follow those particular guidelines.
Is this enclosed or unenclosed?
Unenclosed, it's open.
It's completely.
It's completely open. So I mean, it's beneath the 150 or again, I'm off. I know we're below. I think we're 114. So we designed it based on that, knowing that when it's just on that front. That'd be on the west side. Actually, I would have to look. As on the west side there, the front of the property on Howe Drive, it's that side. And for whatever reason, that is a 35-foot build line on that side versus the 30 on the north side. So it is set back a little bit farther, and you can see even with the porch, we're still 32 feet away. So, yeah, I don't know how the platted build line is negatively impacted, or how or why that negatively impacts us.
Well, I'll speak to historically what has happened is the Fairway code it's a 40-foot setback. So this is platted at 35. You're already 5 foot past what the Fairway setback is per code. And then it's encroaching even more. Historically, we've required people to replat. We haven't had many. But
yeah, it's a long process. I don't want to.
I understand, but that has been what most people don't want to replat, so they either adjust the plans. But I will defer to council if she thinks that's not the correct interpretation. And we haven't had many. We've just had.
It's kind of a rare thing. It's kind of odd.
It is,
Very
because we
odd.
actually have some properties that the front set is a platted 50-foot, which is even more restrictive than the 40. And it is generally, they're lining up with other properties along the street, so they have to stay at that platted setback.
Yeah,
So
and
if we
also just
didn't
because
have-
of the curve of the street. I mean, it's just kind of such a unique.
So if we didn't have the
set.
35-foot platted line, they could encroach the 35 feet building line? Because
They would be set back, the house would be set back at 40 foot, and the open porch could then encroach, what is it, a total of 7 foot?
But it can match the building line, right? If the other houses are out to 35 feet, it could match the other houses, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if the platted line wasn't there, it was somewhere else, then they could be at 35 and encroach out front, or no?
So if there were no platted setback. So yes, the standard requirement is 40 feet, but if the neighboring properties are at 35, you could approve a 35-foot front.
But so if this were to get replatted, could it work in their favor, or would it just work against them?
Would work against me.
So I don't know if there's
Yeah, we wouldn't
an
do
option.
it. I mean, I think I'm just looking for, I mean, it's kind of unique. So because we're following the guidelines set forth by you, I know that the word platted kind of actually works against us, but just the nature of that street and the way that it curves, it looks fine, looks like it does with the other houses, and it obviously meets the criteria for the front porch. So it is unique. I get that. I guess I'm just asking for kind of this one favor just because of the way that this lot sits. I mean, I don't know if we can do that, but other than the platted, it does meet the criteria.
Well, the rules tell us that we can't do that, so I don't know what we can do to help you.
Okay.
I mean, that's my opinion. If that's what.
Is there any other?
That's what our.
I mean, yeah, do we even
Because
have
I'm referring to the council, was she was
Yeah.
saying that, so I'm like, I don't
Well-
really know what our options are other than.
I did not review the porch provisions, and I did find them. And I do see here, and I'll read this if that's okay. Encroachments of unenclosed primary entrance features up to 10 feet into the front setback with a maximum of 200 square feet within the front setback may be approved by the Planning Commission upon a determination of each of the following. 1, the encroachment results in a setback, building line, or other structural encroachment similar to that of the immediately adjacent property. 2, the encroachment is architecturally compatible with and integrated into the principal building. 3, the encroachment does not adversely impact any other required residential site design guideline. And 4, the encroachment does not have a detrimental impact on adjacent property. There is a limitation that does say in no case may any portion of the primary entrance feature be closer than 30 feet, than 30 feet to the front property line. And it sounds like that's not going to be an issue here.
And we're 32 feet. I guess I just don't know where it states where we can't. I mean,
I'm saying that they could grant an exception under these circumstances.
Okay.
If they find that all those things are met.
okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. I didn't know where we were wrong, so thank you for the clarification. So it sounds like we're not.
So can you explain to us what's the difference between the building line and the plat line at this point? Are they the same? I mean, one's doesn't have more authority over the other, I guess.
The building line is something that's set by the code and the regulations, and these are amendments that come through Planning Commission that are reviewed. You might review them as part of the comprehensive plan reviews. All of those sorts of. If you want to amend it, it would go through a public hearing process. All of that. A platted setback is, there's a lot of properties around here that were platted a long time ago, and so there's recognition for that in the code with respect to identifying if there's other adjacent properties that have a similar. I mean, the key is consistency.
Okay, thank you.
And what you'll see on a lot of the surveys coming to you is you'll see the 40-foot building line. They don't have a platted setback because when they were developing streets, the developer set them all back at 40 foot. But we have some areas where we actually have platted setbacks. So it's on the survey deed as it was recorded, and they may differ than what our current code is. And so that's why I mentioned we have a few properties in Fairway that the front setback is required. It's platted at 50. So they need to, again, it's not typical.
Yeah, they're very lot specific.
Yeah.
It seems like the ones that I've seen.
Yeah.
Curves, odd positioning of the house in relation to the houses to the side and behind it. I've seen that.
So on those ones that we're seeing where developers, he didn't plat the setback. So they just take the Fairway code and when they're marking up the survey, they say, here's the 40-foot building line.
Okay. So we have the ability to grant an exception in this situation. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Well, do you have any information as far as what the adjacent properties are like? I mean, it's like we're supposed to do this consistent with the neighboring properties, and we don't have.
Pull it up if you want to see it.
They're unimproved behind to the get my bearings here to the south. And again, as that lot curves back around, I don't know the setback for the house to this. Kim, maybe you can pull it up. The house to the south, I imagine it probably has the same setback. But again, it's the only part that is across our building line is just our open porch that's on the northwest side of that property. The garage, everything else is obviously in the same setback as platted and the rest of the neighborhood. So that is the current house, yes.
Can I get an overhead?
Yes, you can click the little map down on the bottom left of that. See the little box on the bottom left of there that has the.
Oh, here?
Just see the X on the top right of the street view?
Yeah.
Click that. And then change.
Were these plans drawn specifically for this site, or was this a stock
Yes, sir.
plan that you tried to fit
No,
in?
this was very specific to this lot, yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then see the aerial, the map
The
view?
layers, it
Yeah.
says layers, click on that.
It may just look like a bunch of trees though.
Yeah.
But if you zoom in, you can.
Yeah, I can zoom in. As you can see, yeah.
I think on this view, the very bottom left corner of where the red mark is the existing garage of the property that obviously is currently there. That's the exact placement of our garage as well. What we're talking about is the extreme north, kind of west part of this lot is the only part of the overhang. So the house to the south, I imagine, has that same 35-foot setback that we do. And then the house to the east is obviously facing the street, and we have a 30-foot setback there, which obviously we match as well.
Kim, would Ames provide a better view? I think that sometimes.
One moment, let me get to Johnson. In my dreams.
Yeah. Get a price for that, will you? Well, I don't know that I'm comfortable just doing that from looking at a survey. I think we need to maybe ask the developer or builder here, homeowner, somebody to provide us some on-the-ground information about this. Or are you trying to get in the ground by tomorrow so you can have it finished by spring?
I'm trying to get in the ground quick, and part of the reason is the current residence that's on there is falling in, and we've had a lot of complaints, and I know Miles can obviously.
Yeah, we
attest to that.
received numerous complaints. They did apply for a demo permit, but they'd rather have the demo done
We're trying not.
with the permit, because with our demo permit, they can't leave a hole in the ground, so it's an additional cost to the builder.
Well, it's just a lot of risk. We don't want holes in the ground filling full of rain and kids jump. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just a liability that nobody really wants. At least as a house, no one should be breaking into it or drowning in it. But yeah, we'd rather have it all kind of congruent happen at the same time.
Ron, is your concern that the porch isn't going to line up with the adjacent homes, or what is your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it'd be out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, I don't know. It seems like this might have been something to explore when you were designing the house.
Well,
rather than
yeah,
wait
we
till
did,
after
and
you're
we were
done
under
and-
the assumption that because our porch is so small and fit underneath the guidelines that it would. And where the porch is facing, the porch faces there you go. The porch faces that northwest side, so it faces the corner of Howe and 61st Terrace. There are no other houses that line up to it on that front porch. The house to the east of it faces north, faces 61st. Its 30-foot setback is in line with our setback, so there's no porch encroachment on that side. It's really just if you look on the existing.
Can you go up with this, Kim, so we could see what the 60?
Zoom out, Kim.
You're doing a great job.
You're doing great.
So if you go to the north, that's probably, Ron, that's probably the closest house that I think you would probably imagine, because let's say it's on the southwest corner of 61st and Howe. See, that house is also kind of funky shaped as well, but it has that same 30-foot setback that we do, and we're obviously following that. So it's hard to really line it up because that house is also farther to the west. So even if, our house would have to approach the 30-foot setback, I think, to even remotely look in line with that northwest house. I think that Google view from the street, sometimes you can kind of see. It's hard. It's really hard, but yeah.
Don't they have a winter view? A winter view?
They do, but I don't have my login information.
Oh. Well, I don't know.
And staff did have conversation. At one point, they were thinking of facing the street to 61st, and I think it did not work out for you guys.
We wanted to. Yeah, we wanted to. That the existing house doesn't face 61st. I know why now. The lot has limitations. This house has been a difficult home. It was for sale several years ago. No one bought it because of the lot. It's tricky. It's narrow front to back. We did want to face it towards 61st because the other homes do line up with it. It would face the house. It would look like it might probably fit the neighborhood better if it faced 61st, quite frankly. But because of the width on that way, there's just no way you could fit a house that Fairway demands, quite frankly, and for the sale price to fit that way because, again, of the width. And so that's why the current house sits and faces towards Howe, is because it's longer that way. It has restrictions, obviously, front to back, but it sets better on the lot. Just, again, it's just because of the nature of the lot. It's it does look big, but with the platted line on the front and the back, that rear setback in the back of 25 feet, that's why we had to custom draw something to fit here. And again, that's why I'm here on just the front porch issue.
Does anyone want me to change back to house site plan?
Can you zoom out just a little more? What is this house that's just at the bottom of the screen? Does it? I mean, it's.
So that house to the south kind of has the same. Those two lots are very awkward because it has that curve to the street that goes back. Glenfield kind of goes back, and so that house, they share the same. We would still have the garages would still be the exact same location as you can see on the existing conditions and plot map. So those houses kind of, I don't know, what's that? Just an angle. They just kind of angle away. They pivot away from each other at the garage, and the house to the south, I don't know, it kind of faces southeast a little bit. So they don't really line up.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling. Looking at this, it doesn't really look like, it's not like the street I live on, that all the houses line up down the block.
You can't get an angle. An angle doesn't exist where the front porch would ever encroach in front of another view of another house, because there's just two. It's weird. There's just two houses right there that both kind of look towards Howe. The rest of them obviously look towards 61st and Glenfield, and then the house across the street to the east is also, I believe that's a tear down as well. It faces north to 61st. So, it has the same 30-foot setback that we do.
Well, Kim, how do you and Basil feel about letting somebody build in front of the plotted setback? I mean, is that just rubbing you guys and making your lives tougher?
I guess the question I would ask our council is, I'm thinking when we're not here and we don't have the history, they want to enclose the porch in 15 years. Suddenly I don't want to enclose porch. I want extra space interior, and I want to enclose this. I can record it that it was granted an exception strictly for an open, unenclosed porch, I guess. That would be the stipulation we'd have to put on the building permit.
That's what I'd recommend.
Okay,
And that should alert anybody in the future to look at this issue.
okay.
And not that it matters, it is a big porch that curves back to the side, so enclosing it would be an undertaking for someone. And the way that we've got those front columns set up with the stone.
Hasn't stopped anyone before.
No, I know, you're right. You can't stop anyone from doing anything, but it would be extremely difficult to do that later on. I mean, I don't put it past anyone to do anything, but yes, the way that we have it set up and designed is not conducive to adding a screen to it.
I mean, I think as far as, I will defer to our zoning council, but that would be the only concern is that, and we can put that on the permit, so if anybody down the road wants to add on and they want to enclose it, that they would not be able to. That's how I'd record it, so I'm okay.
Or we could stipulate you don't get to retire. How about that?
Basil, did you review this for all other requirements, or because it didn't?
Yeah, we did review it for other requirement. I just went through all the requirements, so it met everything.
Okay.
Again, they were encroaching on the street side, and they managed to revise the plans with that, so they shrank that portion. So
Okay.
Just couldn't
that's
shrink it
the
down 2.5
only
feet,
issue.
huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a unique floor plan. And again, we designed it off the lot, and off of that front porch being kind of such a big part of that house, pushing that house back. I mean, I'll admit, Ron, yeah, I could do it. It would take a lot of work, it would take a lot of time, but we would have to redesign the plan. You're just starting over. This is our 8th month into this, and obviously I'm kind of at your mercy, to kind of prove it, but if it's got to be another 8 months, it's got to be another 8 months. I just, we tried to follow all the guidelines, and everything else, obviously, like Basil said, kind of fits. So it was really more of that front porch was really our issue, and just the uniqueness of the lot, I think.
And they are at the 25-foot back setback, so, I mean, they really can't move it
Yeah.
back.
Well, no, they can't. It goes to lot line or the setbacks everywhere, so it's.
Mm-hmm. It's just that weird kind of building line, so it's.
And they're still within the green space, I'm assuming?
Yes.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any discussion?
I'm generally supportive of this request based upon the conversation we just had.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it seems like a pretty awkward lot and adjacent lots to try and line up with. So I think it'll look nice.
I would agree. I don't think you'd be able to notice even the slight encroachment compared to the properties next to it, given the angles that we were just looking at. I don't think it would be noticeable.
The southwest corner aligns with the existing southwest corner, so that aligns with the existing house to the south, I think.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it. It's a nice-looking house. It looks like it's well-designed. It's just, I don't want to go against the staff recommendations, but if our legal counsel says it's okay.
Yes, and I apologize. I just don't think I realized that it was a porch, and I didn't realize there was that special exception provision for porches, so that was my oversight.
Someone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve as submitted.
For a second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes.
There you go. Good job out there.
Next item of business is item D, site plan and deviation request for new signage, 2712 West 53rd Street, Fairway, Kansas, as submitted by Dan Matush of Infinity Signs Systems on behalf of Stretch Lab tenant and First Washington real estate property owner. Basil, will you please provide your staff report?
Yes, the applicant is submitting that request for 3 new signs. One is 2.7 square feet window sign, one is 7.7 square feet wall sign, and 1 4 square feet illuminated light sign. Staff support the first 2 signs. With regard to the blade sign, staff is not in support of that. It does not match the character of the shops and the signs. And from the location of it, with the awnings, I don't think they can achieve any visible notice for that sign.
Is it under the awning, or where is it located, the blade sign?
The way it's set up there, it's between. Like, there is an awning on the east side that's going to be above, the sign will be above that awning, and then on the west side, it will be below another awning.
So on the screen there, it's that little, so this is perpendicular. This is perpendicular to the facade. So it's, if you can see that area blown up
Okay,
between the awnings that
that's
he's
the
talking
part I was
about.
missing before.
Yeah, it did not pop out well when I first looked at it, so.
Yeah, I was trying to find it. I thought, how are they even going to see it under the awning? But it's stuck up there. Okay, all right.
Okay, any questions for staff, or any other questions?
And both signs are within the requirements, so they're not seeking an exception for the size of the signs.
Okay.
Even the blade sign is within the restrictions?
No.
No.
It would require a deviation from planning because signage, wall signs are supposed to be parallel to the facade.
Okay, that's what I thought. But
That's for signs attached to the building?
Yes.
Okay, because like a sign out in front of a building could also,
Monument sign, yeah, is different, but yeah, for the, I had to do quite a bit of research to figure out what this was called.
Okay.
Before I found. Now, we do have, there's another type of sign that projects out, but I'm trying to remember if we have anywhere, and I don't think so. I know here at the shops there are none. They're all on the wall.
okay. All right, thank you. Are there questions for the applicant? Or do we just want to have discussion?
Well, I guess if the applicant here, I'd like to hear why they think this is a good addition. I mean, the other signage looks great.
My name is Scott Houston. I'm with Infinity Sign, 4900 Lister Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri. And I would agree with Basil and staff. The sign does not belong here. It doesn't fit. There's really no need for it. This is more of a formality for my customer dealing with their national branding to go forward through this. And I would agree that if we go with the 2 signs that were approved by staff and go forward with that, the blade sign does not need to be there. It doesn't really serve any purpose. It actually, you don't really see it from one side. And the awnings stick out, so my only argument would be for pedestrian traffic. And when you're walking down the street, there's awnings that are sticking over and you can't see it anyway. So,
Making our job easy.
approve the other 2 signs, I would tell them the blade sign was not approved.
Send the recording to the property owner.
If you have any other questions, I would agree with staff.
You covered it. I just was curious how you were going to
Typically, I
put
come
a
up here and I
positive
want to
spin
argue
on
with you
this.
and tell you what is needed
Yeah.
and everything else, but obviously I don't have a leg to stand on.
Well,
So.
I think we're all
Thank you for your
agreeing.
time.
Okay, I'm good.
I have a quick question for staff. So, this being commercial development, is it subject to landlord approval from First Washington, the property owner?
That's should be an easy question to answer. The shops used to have a sign scheme that it was approved. The shops have been sold multiple times. I don't think First Washington even knows that there was a sign scheme. So that's why it's come into planning. But I can certainly reach out. In the past, when I have on any, they send over the approval. It's no big deal. So I can, if you want me to put in any motion the stipulation, staff confirms with First Washington, but I'm sure they're going to say yes.
If I could jump in and just note, that is a private agreement that the city typically would not get involved in. That it would be a problem for the tenant if there's any non-compliance.
I don't have a problem reaching out to the property owner and have them sign an affidavit saying that they approve these drawings, or however you want me to do that too, so.
Okay.
And it's very similar to the previous signage since we're not including the blade sign in the discussion. If we talked about the blade sign, that'd be a different conversation. But the sign itself, the hair lab, is very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments?
I would make a motion that we approve this submittal based on the staff recommendations and that we not allow the blade sign at 2712 West 53rd Street.
Ron, I'd second your motion.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
I defer to council always.
All right, next item of business is item E, site plan for new single-family residence at 5914 Alhambra, Fairway, Kansas, as submitted by Mike Donahue of MEJ Real Estate Company, property owner. Basil, staff report, please.
Applicant submitted a request for a new single-family resident with a footprint of 2,040 square feet. The plans show a height of the structure to be 29.6 feet. The existing grade is 963, and they are keeping the same grade elevation. The hardscape will reduce the runoff to the rear from 1.69 to 1.21, and it will increase the runoff to the street from 0 to 0.52 CFS. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Or discussion?
And one question, they are going to remove a right-of-way tree, but it's not a signature tree, it's a small tree. And they got approval from Public Works.
I guess I do have a quick question. I don't pretend to be an expert here, but I thought for some reason on the front facade you couldn't have like a single siding material across the entire facade. Do you need something to break it up, or am I just dreaming?
I think what you're referencing is if there's more than 600 square foot of facade, it has to be broken up with architectural features. But you're allowed up to 2 base materials. So if you wanted to do lap siding and stone and 3 accent, but we don't prohibit, I'm pretty sure that they just use 1 material.
Okay. Sounds good. I remember Ron getting into a very detailed explanation about complexities of facades at some point.
No,
So
don't
I'm
be
just
listening
coming
to
back
me
to
for
this.
reference here.
And when you do have the material changes, they need to be at interior corners. So there probably some of that discussion on a project, but yeah, they are allowed to use just 1 material.
Sounds good.
That's one other thing to point. that answer your question? Sorry. One other to point out is, they aren't they're meeting the pervious surface requirement, but they're very close. And this house reminds me of a previous house that we just reviewed a few months ago where someone wanted to add a patio and then they couldn't later, so.
So where will they put the barbecue grill?
And that's not this problem, the homeowner's problem right now, but it will be a problem in a number of years from now, so.
Well, they do have, on this site plan, I do see 170 square foot. Is that covered patio, Boz?
Yeah.
Oh, so they don't have any other patios, so I would not be completely taken aback if we have a request for hardscape. I know the builder's here, Mr. Mosley.
It makes me wonder if we need to almost add a caveat to the building code that a provision for hardscape needs to be allowed, or I don't know. Something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the planning has the ability to grant exceptions, but obviously we are seeing that the homes are being built to the max. And I think on the others, we let the builders know they need to express to the buyer. And then I think there was a interpretation different on the last one.
Right, they did that last time, right? And they thought that they could use pervious pavers.
Yes.
And they did a lot of stuff, and we were okay with it, but that's not the expectation.
You're
The expectation
correct.
is that they meet the code.
Yeah.
So. Is the builder here or the applicant present?
I'm the applicant.
Okay. Will you say your name and address for the record? And then
Jim Sullivan, Sullivan Palmer Architects, 5616 Tahoe Lane, Fairway.
have you considered the need for a hardscape in the back, and how that would be achieved if the homeowner wanted to have a barbecue grill or a patio or such?
I think right now it's a trade-off. They'd rather have the lanai than the hardscape. And that was the decision that was made,
And someone already owns this and is prepared to move into this home, or is it to be sold?
Well, I think it's the developer's decision to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or discussion?
It appears to meet the requirements.
Someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve as submitted.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Next item of business is item 4, additional business. We have the next meeting on November 28th, so that's the Monday after Thanksgiving. So if you're not going to be in town, please let Kim know.
And
We do have 2 applications.
All right, next item.
One is a single family and the other one is commercial.
What's the commercial?
The building south of the creamery or south of the animal hospital.
Oh,
It's where the,
Hideaway Pets?
yes, where they were located.
Are they wanting to build a new building, or we do that one?
Nope, they're just,
No, they're just adding windows, they're reconfiguring openings in the,
do they have a tenant?
no, they didn't say anything.
All right,
I think
thought it
it's
was
the
Edward
same
Jones.
tenant.
yeah.
I think it's the same tenant that's in there right now.
Hideaway Pets?
No, the
I thought it was Edward Jones.
Edward Jones.
Okay.
But they are doing a change on the mansard roof. Believe they're proposing.
Yeah, it's wood shake right now, and they're gonna do metal.
And so the code states any exterior stuff on commercial has to come before planning. So that's why, even though it's minor, that's why it's coming before you.
All right.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Meeting adjourned.